end of the month and time for another book review. Well, actually, it's not quite the end of the month. It's close to it, but I'm not going to be here actually at the very end because I'm going to be in San Francisco taking Two Gun Heart to Pegasus Books, where it will be available at, actually in Berkeley, close to San Francisco. Anyway, it'll be out there for people to get and all that sort of thing. So, and also this book that I'm reviewing this month is actually quite a bit shorter, and if I get distracted, it's because my cats are being extra adorable right now. Anyway, on to the book. I met this person, Sydney Olson, when I was in Nebraska at a book signing in Seward. It's Seward with a D. Don't say it without it. Without the D. Anyway, it's called The Curse of the Fates by Sydney Olson, as I said. And it's about a little girl, as you can tell, she's bald. Or, well, you can't really tell because she's balding at the moment of the picture. But anyway, it's about a little girl with alopecia. Now, I actually had heard a little bit about something about this disease, but I didn't really know much about it. But Sydney Olson herself has it, so she decided to write about it. It's not actually an autobiography, it's basically about the same type of thing. She took some of her experiences, put it into the form of a character, and created this book. And in fact, she did something rather clever with it. It's got drawings in it. It's made for children, especially children who are who have this disease or are starting to suffer from it. I hate saying suffer from it and disease. The suffer from it in general, it always sounds patronizing when you say it, and also, especially when you meet someone like Sydney, it's not really, she's not suffering except, emotionally sometimes, because people can be jerks and make fun of someone like that, etc., etc. But it's not like a disease like cancer or something like that where you're dying from it or whatever. It affects about 2% of the population, males and females. With girls, of course, it affects more than boys. And I think she said that there are more girls that suffer from it than boys. But also just because of our culture and because, girls are, quote-unquote, supposed to have hair, it affects them, emotionally more. So that's why she wrote this. She wanted to help other people who might have this sort of a disease. And again, disease, I hate to use that. I think technically that's the term for it. But again, it's not like it's something you're dying from or anything like that. But it's, it's something that really affects your social interactions, that sort of thing. Anyway, what was interesting about it is she did it as, not only with drawings, but black and white specifically. The idea being that it can be a coloring book. And again, not just because of children, but because she wanted whoever was reading this to imagine themselves or their own color hair, because the character starts with hair and she slowly loses it. She wanted the person to be able to draw in, the child, whoever's reading it and drawing in it, to be able to draw in their own color hair and their own, if they're a different race, their own shade of skin, and et cetera, to sort of put themselves in the story, which again is why she didn't make it so much autobiographical. She didn't want to say I, she wanted to say this character, but for the readers to be able to put themselves into it and help them, cope and that sort of thing. And that's actually really the purpose of this, is to help with coping with this sort of a disease. And I just suddenly noticed this is really tacky for me in this video to be putting on Chewbacca in the background there. That's really when you're talking about this subject. Anyway, I'm going to say something real quick about this particular author. Usually I just talk about the book and that sort of thing, but it's one and the same because she's writing about some of her own sort of experiences, that sort of thing. What was fascinating about her was, okay, you can't not notice this disease. She walks in, she's bald, she wasn't wearing a wig or anything like that. And when the subject came up, she's like, yeah, this is have it just the same way someone would say, yeah, I'm wearing a red sweater or whatever. Had a sense of humor about it. Whenever the subject came up, she would joke about it. And the way she was, she dealt with it was really cool because of the fact that she wouldn't make a gigantic deal about it. She did want to write a book that helps someone cope, but that's kind of part of the coping, is just simply dealing with it and going, yeah, this is something I have, move on. But not, also at the same time not being defensive about it or anything like that. And that's, again, part of what the book deals with. It starts off, The Curse of the Fates, the name of it, kind of goes into the way that the child is feeling at first. It's like, oh, nothing could be worse, especially when you're, a young girl nearing teen years. This just feels like the worst thing possible. Nothing in the world could be, worse. And the character thinks that a witch has cursed her, and all that sort of thing, and thinks that the world is basically going to come to an end and, all that. And as the book goes along, she finds that, no, life's going to continue. We're going to, be okay. We're going to live. And in fact, we can even have a sense of humor about it and about life and et cetera, et cetera. This is what's really great about it. I mean, what's good about this book is obvious. It's great for helping cope. It's from somebody who's actually been through it. It takes you from the point of the world's going to end, this is the worst thing ever, to okay, it sucks, but we're going to get through it, and we're gonna be okay. And she even leaves it a little vague, because some people with alopecia, their hair comes back. It's a thing with the immune system. Is the immune system starts defining hair as some kind of disease and starts pushing it out. That's why it's really not alopecia isn't as much a disease as much as it's your own immune system misdefining what a disease is, and it starts pushing the hair, follicles out. And then sometimes it comes back, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, the book purposely leaves at the end. Doesn't matter, it might not. Doesn't matter. We're going to go on no matter what happens. This is the great part about it. What I would have said to improve upon it, in fact, actually, this is what I would say to the author in general, to Sydney Olson, is I hope she re-enters this world or writes about this again at some point, because some of the experiences she talked about her having in life were more fascinating than what happened here, because in some ways, I mean, part of what she was doing was trying to say everything's going to be okay, which is fine, but and everything will obviously be fine, but it's oftentimes after you go through so many of these problems where people are making fun of you, where life is getting, kind of not really worse in terms of your own life, but the way people are treating you, etc. In the book, there's a little bit quick of an acceptance from everybody else. It's almost more like all in the little girl's head. She thinks it's the worst thing ever, but then her friend says it's all going to be okay. Her mother says it's all going to be okay. Her parents are, and everybody's supportive of her, except like at the end, there's a casual mention to, well, some people at school made fun of her, but she didn't care about them and kind of moved on. I guess from the message that she's trying to give, it works, but I would actually prefer for her to put in some things of her own experience. Some of the things she told me about when I met her, because she talked about, a little more specifically about how some people made fun of her and how there's this rigid definition of girls are supposed to look like this, boys are supposed to look like this. And a lot of her coming to grips with things was accepting that no, they don't. And some of the stories, which I'm not going to tell here because it's really for her to tell, but some of the stories she told to me, those would make some really, really good stories in the book. And maybe it was too much to go into for a child or whatever. I'm not really sure, but I hope she re-examines this thing. I know she doesn't want to it seems that she doesn't want to obsess on this subject, and I think that's admirable, because sometimes when people have an issue themselves, they tend to get obsessed with it, and that's all they write about. And I would definitely recommend she write about other things and not just stay on this one subject. But I do hope she comes back to this at some point, and that she goes into some of those things. It'll be really painful for her, but I really do hope she goes in and examines some of those experiences that happened to her, and still, I like the fact that she tells it in the third person so that other people can put themselves in the story. But I'd like for her to go in and tell some more of those things in this third person point of view, telling about another person going through them, but sort of go more into the specifics of some of the things that happened to her. But let's hope for that. In the meantime, definitely a fine book. It's great for anybody to read and understand. Anybody with this sort of disease, like I say, it affects 2% of the population, but also especially even people who do have cancer, who are dealing with chemotherapy. This whole thing is a coping mechanism for people who lose their hair for whatever reason, especially children, girls, et cetera, et cetera. Definitely recommend the book. And in general, actually, I've gotten to the point where I'm really not reviewing books that I don't recommend, because I'm such a slow reader. I have to really like it before I'm so it goes without saying that I recommend the book if I'm talking about it. And Chewbacca, stop getting in my shot. Anyway, but yeah, I'm for the most part nowadays, what I'm going to do is just sort of tell about what the book is, where I think it could have been improved or whatever. But in general, it's definitely worth reading if I'm talking about it on here. I think. Good for anybody, but like I say, especially for anyone coping with anything similar to this. All right, time for the moment of truth. Actually, I'm not expecting to have lost much weight. For those of you who are just starting to watch these videos, what I do is I review the book, and I'm reading these books as I'm doing walks and that sort of thing. Oftentimes nowadays on the stairs, because it's really hot outside, and going down to the bike path, it kind of steams me up and it takes a while oftentimes I don't go for that long of a walk if I try to do that because it's so hot, but here it's in the shade. So anyway, the idea is I'm reading these books as I'm taking a walk, and then at the end of the month I see how much weight that I've lost, and I've been trying to eat well and all sort of thing, and that cat is also trying to look flat as well. All right, kitty, let's do this, see how much weight I have lost. It's only been like a couple weeks because the last video was late and this one is early, but we'll see. All right. Is it 209 before? Yeah, pretty much the same thing. Just, you know, it's only been a couple weeks. Haven't really done much. And it was, you know, it was a short book, but I got to get going. This one's early. The last one was late, like I said, but next one will probably take a little bit of time. Actually, not that much time, actually, because this one's a short but sweet one. It is called, it's not called Alicia Bean, that's the writer, Evolution of a Wine Drinker, which I got this for my girlfriend, Jamie, which anybody who knows her knows exactly why I would get that for her. Alicia Bean is the writer, or Bien, comedy writer, and that will be the next one. So in the meantime, be sure, I'm going to try to do some more videos as well. You know, once a month is you know, I have a few other things to say, and hopefully I'll read a little faster. Anyway, read more independent books. Hope you enjoy it.